There is a fruit growing quietly across eastern North America that most people walk past without a second glance. Its berries are nearly black, its shrubs can survive harsh winters, and its flavor is so dry and intense that early settlers gave it a name that sounded more like a warning than an invitation. Chokeberry. Today we know it by another name, Aronia melanocarpa, or black Aronia. And hidden inside that dark skin is a remarkable concentration of plant compounds, especially anthocyanins, proanthocyanidins, tannins, and other polyphenols. These compounds help protect the plant from environmental stress, and they are one reason Aronia has attracted growing scientific interest. But here is the strange part. While blueberries became a global symbol of healthy eating, Aronia remained almost invisible in its own homeland. Why? Because Aronia does not taste like modern fruit is supposed to taste. It is not soft, sugary, or instantly rewarding. Eat it raw, and the tannins can leave your mouth feeling dry and tight. For generations, that sensation was treated as a defect. Sweetness won, bitterness lost. Yet that judgment may have said more about us than about the berry. Aronia survived on forest edges, in wetlands, along hedgerows, and in places where more delicate crops struggled. It never needed to become fashionable to endure. It simply kept growing. And now, after centuries of being overlooked, this native berry is returning to the conversation. This is not the story of a miracle cure. It is the story of a plant we ignored because its strength did not come wrapped in sugar. To understand what we missed, we have to go back to a time before sweetness defined value. Welcome to Botanical Vault. Long before European settlers gave this fruit an unflattering name, indigenous communities across eastern and central North America already understood that wild plants were more than seasonal snacks. Berries, roots, bark, seeds, and leaves were part of a much larger system of food knowledge shaped by climate, migration, preservation, and survival. Aronia belonged to that landscape. Its dark berries could be eaten fresh in small amounts, dried, mixed with other foods, or prepared in ways that softened their intense astringency. The important question was not whether the fruit tasted like candy. The question was what it offered, when it ripened, how long it could be stored, and how it fit into the rhythm of the land. That difference in perspective matters. Modern consumers are trained to think of bitterness and dryness as warning signs. But in many traditional food cultures, strong flavor did not automatically mean bad food. It often meant that the plant contained something powerful, concentrated, or worth preparing carefully. With Aronia, that dry sensation comes largely from tannins and other polyphenolic compounds. When they interact with proteins in your saliva, your mouth can suddenly feel tight, rough, almost emptied of moisture. To a modern shopper, that may seem unpleasant. To someone who depended on seasonal foods, it was simply part of the plant. Then the landscape began to change. Orchards expanded. Imported apples, pears, and peaches became more familiar. Agriculture increasingly favored fruits that were sweeter, larger, and easier to sell. Aronia did not disappear. It was simply pushed out of the center of the food story. And while North America was learning to prefer sweetness, people on the other side of the world were beginning to see something entirely different in this stubborn little berry. Survival. By the late 19th century, Aronia had crossed the Atlantic and entered a very different agricultural world. In Eastern Europe and Russia, plant breeders were searching for crops that could survive conditions that destroyed more delicate fruit trees. Severe winters, short growing seasons, poor soils, and sudden temperature swings made conventional orchard farming difficult in many regions. That is where Ivan Mikurin entered the story. Mikurin was one of Russia's best-known plant breeders, obsessed with creating fruit varieties capable of surviving extreme climates. Aronia caught his attention, not because it was sweet, but because it was stubborn. The shrub tolerated cold, adapted to difficult environments, and produced dark fruit rich in pigments. Through breeding and selection, Maturin and later researchers helped develop larger fruited forms associated with what is often called Aronia maturini, a cultivated type with a complicated genetic history involving Aronia and related mountain ash species. The result was something North America had never seriously pursued: Aronia as an agricultural crop. By the middle of the 20th century, commercial production expanded across parts of the Soviet Union and Eastern Europe. The berries were processed into juice, preserves, syrups, wine, and concentrated extracts. Their intense flavor was no longer treated as a problem. Processing turned that astringency into something useful. That contrast is remarkable. North America had the native plant. Eastern Europe built the industry. Back in the United States, Aronia remained largely confined to wild landscapes, conservation plantings, ornamental gardens, and the occasional farm experiment. Most consumers had no idea that a berry native to their own continent had become a recognized crop thousands of miles away. The plant itself had not changed very much. What changed was the culture surrounding it. One society looked at Aronia and tasted inconvenience. Another looked at the same berry and saw resilience. And that raises the next question. What exactly was hidden inside those dark fruits that made scientists keep paying attention? So what makes Aronia so chemically interesting? The answer begins with its color. That almost black-purple skin is loaded with anthocyanins, the pigments responsible for the deep blue, red, and violet colors found in many fruits. Aronia also contains proanthocyanidins, flavonols, and phenolic acids, forming an unusually dense mixture of polyphenols. These compounds are part of the plant's own chemistry. They help it respond to environmental stress, and in laboratory tests, they can neutralize reactive molecules known as free radicals. That is why Aronia often performs impressively in antioxidant assays. But this is where the story needs a correction. You may have seen charts claiming that Aronia has several times the antioxidant power of blueberries because of its ORAC score. ORAC, or oxygen radical absorbance capacity, measures antioxidant activity in a test tube. It does not tell us that eating a fruit gives your body the same numerical level of protection. Digestion, absorption, metabolism, dose, and the gut microbiome all change what happens after those compounds enter the human body. And when researchers move from the laboratory to real people, the picture becomes more complicated. Some clinical studies and earlier pooled analyses suggested that Aronia products might modestly influence blood glucose or certain cardiovascular risk markers. But newer reviews of randomized trials have found that effects on fasting, blood sugar, body weight, cholesterol, and blood pressure are inconsistent, or, in some analyses, not statistically significant. That does not make Aronia worthless. It makes it real. This is a fruit rich in biologically active compounds, not a pharmaceutical drug and not a miracle cure. Its strongest claim is not that it can erase disease, but that it offers a remarkably concentrated package of plant chemistry inside a small, intensely flavored berry. And once you understand that, its bitterness starts to look very different. The flavor that pushed Aronia out of the American diet may be connected to the very compounds that made scientists notice it in the first place. If Aronia is so rich in plant compounds, why did blueberries become a supermarket superstar, while Aronia remained almost invisible? The answer has less to do with biology than with convenience. Modern fruit markets reward products that are easy to understand and easy to consume. A blueberry can be washed, packed into a plastic container, shipped across the country, and eaten by the handful with no preparation. It is sweet, familiar, portable, and instantly acceptable to most people. Aronia is different. Bite into a raw berry, and the first thing you notice is not sweetness. It is dryness. The tannins grab your mouth. The flavor is dark, tart, and demanding. For many consumers, One handful is enough. That makes Aronia a difficult product for an industry built around speed. It works far better when it is processed. It can be blended into smoothies, cooked into sauces and preserves, dried for tea, pressed into juice, fermented, or mixed with sweeter fruits. Preparation transforms its flavor and makes the berry much easier to enjoy. But preparation requires something the modern food system does not always reward: patience. Markets naturally favor products people can recognize, purchase, and consume immediately. Over decades, growers and breeders have also selected many commercial fruits for qualities such as sweetness, size, appearance, firmness, transportability, and shelf life. None of this means that sweetness is bad. It means sweetness is easy to sell. And Aronia never competed well on that battlefield. Its strength lies somewhere else. It is a fruit for people willing to work with it, rather than simply eat it straight from the package. That helps explain why Aronia has often survived through small farms, specialty processors, local markets, and growers who see value where mass retail sees inconvenience. There is a lesson hidden inside that contrast. We did not necessarily reject Aronia because it lacked value. We rejected it because its value was not immediate. The berry asked us to slow down, prepare it, and acquire a taste for something stronger than sugar. And now, some growers are beginning to answer that challenge. Today, Aronia is beginning to return to the American landscape, but not through a giant corporate campaign. Its revival is happening quietly, farm by farm. Across the Midwest, growers have started looking again at native and cold-hardy perennial crops that can survive conditions that challenge more fragile fruit species. Aronia fits that search unusually well. Once established, the shrub tolerates severe winters, handles a range of soils, and generally faces fewer pest pressures than many non-native fruit crops. That does not make it effortless. No crop is truly maintenance-free. Aronia still needs proper establishment, pruning, weed control, harvesting, and attention to soil and moisture. But its resilience makes it attractive to farmers looking for alternatives to crops that require heavy annual inputs. The revival also connects to something larger than agriculture. For Indigenous communities, restoring traditional and locally adapted foods can be part of rebuilding relationships with land, culture, and community health. In Iowa, the Meskwaki Nation's food sovereignty work and Red Earth Gardens have helped bring food production back into a broader conversation about knowledge, self-determination, and the future of the community. That philosophy changes the meaning of a crop. Food is no longer measured only by yield, shelf life, or the price it commands at a supermarket. It can also preserve memory. It can teach younger generations where food comes from. It can reconnect people with landscapes that industrial agriculture often treats as little more than production zones. Aronia fits naturally into that story because it never needed to be imported into North America. It was already here, and perhaps that is why its return feels different from another passing superfood trend. This is not about discovering an exotic berry from some distant mountain. It is about looking carefully at a plant that has been growing beside us all along and asking whether our definition of valuable food became too narrow. The plant did not abandon us. We simply stopped paying attention. In the end, the story of Aronia is not really about antioxidants. It is about taste. For generations, we learned to judge fruit by softness, sweetness, and immediate pleasure. Anything too sour, too bitter, or too astringent was treated as unfinished, undesirable, or simply not worth eating. Aronia refuses to follow that rule. Its tannins interact with proteins in your saliva, creating that unmistakable dry, tightening sensation across your mouth. Its flavor can be sharp and intense, but those qualities remind us that plants contain far more than sugar, water, and calories. They are complex chemical systems shaped by survival, That does not mean bitterness automatically equals health. And it certainly does not mean Aronia is medicine in the pharmaceutical sense. It means this berry challenges the way we have been trained to think about food. Aronia was never truly lost. The shrub survived in wetlands, along forest edges, in conservation plantings, private gardens, research plots, and farms across the Midwest. What disappeared was our attention. We spent generations teaching plants to become easier for us, sweeter, larger, softer, more convenient. Maybe the next step is learning how to meet certain foods halfway, to cook them, blend them, preserve them, and sometimes accept that the most interesting flavor is not the easiest one. Aronia does not need to become the next miracle superfood. It does not need exaggerated promises or impossible health claims. Its real story is already strong enough. A native North American plant was overlooked at home, cultivated abroad, examined by science, and slowly rediscovered by people willing to question what valuable food is supposed to taste like. We did not lose Aronia. We lost the habit of recognizing it. And perhaps that is what Botanical Vault is really about. Not discovering something new, remembering what was already here. If this vault opened something for you, subscribe to Botanical Vault and join us as we uncover more forgotten plants, hidden histories, and overlooked foods. The next vault opens soon,